Oh hey, didn't see you there. I just finished reading The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. And although I was reading this book from my very comfy, cozy backyard, it was set in the faraway lands of New York City. The novel follows Holden Caulfield, a troubled young boy who is kicked out of preparatory school. Holden wanders the streets of New York City, terrified of what is to come. What will he do? And what will his parents do when they find out about his expulsion? In reading about Holden's beautiful journey, people are swept up into Holden's inner psyche and his tragic worldview. This takes us to our first backwards connection, Candide. Candide is a famous French novel written by Voltaire, a thinker from the Age of Enlightenment in 1759. The novel is a satirical and humorous coming-of-age story that follows Candide as he learns about the world. As Candide learns more and more, he becomes slowly more disillusioned by the state of the government and the state of his world. The Catcher in the Rye was written in a similar style. Both novels reveal faults about our world through following one compelling character as he learns and becomes disillusioned. Although Candide has a much more humorous tone than Catcher in the Rye, surely Salinger was inspired by the coming-of-age genre that Candide created. For example, while in South America, Candide is able to amass a great amount of wealth in El Dorado, the city of gold. Candide learns the lesson that money is not as worthwhile as it seems, and he is left unfulfilled because money is not what brings him true happiness. Voltaire is able to display an important theme by showing how his character had a misconception and how he learned his lesson. This is an entertaining and effective way for the author to get his point across. Salinger uses the same tactic in The Catcher in the Rye. At the end of the novel, Holden learns that he should leave Phoebe to grow up on her own, and this is an important moral of the story. The next thing that indubitably inspired Salinger in his novel was World War II. Whether Salinger would like to admit or not, World War II left a lasting mark on U.S. culture and literature. After the two world wars, people and society began to question the inherent goodness of the government. Common American people questioned the use of capitalism and continued to question the honor of government officials. The Catcher in the Rye is clearly a byproduct of this culture. Through the lens of one confused and depressed teenager, Salinger puts on display the filth of America, the role of education in society, and illuminates the struggles of growing up in an immoral America. Last, Salinger moved to the rural town of Tiverton, England, in order to escape the harsh urban life that many American cities provided. Salinger inputted the same desire into Holden Caulfield, which is part of what makes him such a compelling character. Now for the forward connections. The Catcher in the Rye had a deep and lasting impact on American culture. The ideas from the novel can be seen in aspects of American society even up till today. But for our first connection, we're going to take it back to the 60s and the emergence of the American teenager. Around this time, teenagers and young people emerged as a new social group with their own tastes in fashion, film, and their own hobbies. The new American teenagers were slightly more rough around the edges than young people of previous generations, and the character of Holden Caulfield displays them perfectly. Salinger's novel perfectly captured the zeitgeist of teens in the 60s, and thousands were inspired by the story. As one young woman said,
"The younger ones seem to be living in a world of tension and great anxiety, partly due to the world situation that is existing today. They're in a rush for everything. They start drinking at parties when they're in 8th grade. They consider sex nothing at all."
Now let's talk about my generation. Elements of The Catcher in the Rye can also be seen in Gen Z, but in a different way. Although Caulfield definitely inspired part of the edgy attitude of teens in the 50s and 60s, the true anxiety and hopelessness of Caulfield relates most to the teenagers of Gen Z. As the world becomes more and more complex, the issue of poor mental health among teenagers becomes more and more prominent. If you ask any teenager, then I guarantee you that teen will either know someone that is currently struggling with a serious mental condition or is struggling themselves. Holden's attitude of being, quote, confused and frightened and even sickened by human behavior, end quote, is relatable to many teenagers of our time. who have lost all hope in the idea that the world is good. Now let's talk about a connection that is a tad bit more frightening. That Catcher in the Rye seems to inspire murder. 3 killers have allegedly been inspired by The Catcher in the Rye: Mark Chapman, John Hinckley Jr., and Robert Bardo, the most notably being Mark Chapman, who murdered John Lennon. Although many people related to the character of Holden Caulfield, Chapman took it way too far. He was obsessed with the character and even tried to change his legal name to Holden Caulfield. Chapman was found with the book on the night that he shot John Lennon. Inside he had written, quote, "This is my statement," end quote, and signed Holden's name. Because of this chicanery, The Catcher in the Rye is widely known as a red flag, and people who enjoyed the book are assumed to be crazy or weird. Although the novel surely inspired some evil acts from crazy people, the novel is filled with interesting ideas and is a wonderful read for normal people. This takes us to our last and final connection, a movie that actually documents the life of J.D. Salinger surrounding the publication of his novel. The movie, The Rebel in the Rye, obviously came about because of the critical success of Salinger's novel, The Catcher in the Rye, and it explores what went into crafting the novel. The film clearly shows how autobiographical The Catcher in the Rye was. For example, Salinger had troubling relationships with his teachers in the film, just as Holden did, and there are countless scenes in the movie where Salinger grapples with how hard being a writer really is. In one scene in particular, Salinger realizes that he may never get anything good out of writing, and this is the same realization that Holden has when he gets kicked out of preparatory school, that he may never get anything good out of his life, and that it may all just be one big phony mess. This is Charlie Votin, signing off. See you in the next one.